Hello, everyone, and welcome to the AI Masterclass for College Counselors. We are truly excited that you have joined us today. I am Evelyn Thimba, and I serve as Vice President for Enrollment Management here at AU. First, let me express our deep gratitude for your partnership. The work that you do every single day, guiding students, supporting families, opening doors, helping young people imagine what's possible is both extraordinary and essential. We here at AU, we value it and we see it, and we are honored to collaborate with you in this shared goal. Today's session is meaningful because AI is transforming everything: education, career pathways, the world that we live in. And at American University, and particularly within the Kogod School of Business, I believe and we are proud to be ahead of the pack. We have already integrated AI across all of our classrooms and courseworks. Our faculty are leading conversations on responsible innovation, and our students are truly gaining hands-on experience that is preparing them to excel in a rapidly changing workplace. No more spoilers for me, as I know both Deans Dave and Casey will share a lot of this exciting stuff, but this masterclass is an extension of that commitment. We want to equip you with practical skills and thoughtful strategies that you can bring back to your daily lives and to your students. So thank you again for your time today. Just some business during the presentation. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. We will also leave some time at the end to answer them directly. So let's get started. I am honored to introduce our favorite dean, Dean Dave Marchick, who's the leading voice on curricular innovation and AI at the Kogod School of Business. Dave, thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much, Evelyn, and excited to see everyone. I know that as someone with one college graduate and one current senior, I know how important your role is to change lives, and I'm grateful for your time. I'm going to share my screen and then show a few slides. Hopefully that works, and introduce the program. So, first of all, welcome again. Hopefully this can work. All right. AI is the fastest growing technology in the history of technology. As this chart shows, AI is growing 30 to 50 times faster than other technologies which we're familiar with today: Amazon, Twitter, the iPhone. It's the fastest growing technology in the history of the world. But actually, we're early in the AI revolution. Right now, AI is really an assistant or a collaborator. We're just moving into the point where AI will be an agent, where you can send it off and delegate it and have it do tasks for you. And then at some point in our lifetime in the near future, AI will be as smart or smarter than humans, which creates both pros and cons and many societal issues which we grapple with, and I know you're grappling with every day. We have done more to integrate AI into our curriculum than any other school in the country. Our belief is that our students need to have fluency and literacy in AI along with their core skills, whether you're a business student or a student in another discipline. We received an award last year from the leading publication that covers business school that said that our AI work has been the most consequential transformation in business education anywhere in the United States. We offer majors, minors, we offer a grad degree and badges and certificates. In my view, perhaps the most important innovation is to provide AI tools for non-business school majors. If you want to be a doctor, AI is going to change healthcare, and having a biology or chemistry degree, your labs, plus an AI minor or AI fluency will help you get into med school. If you want to go into policy or being a teacher, the same thing. So I think one of the best things we're doing is providing AI skills for non-business students. Here is what we're going to do today. We're going to give you 5 or 6 applications that we hope will make your lives easier. We know that you're experts in your jobs and you know what you're doing. We want to give you some technological tips that will hopefully make you be more effective and be able to serve your students even better. So we're going to go through a fun one by Professor Angela Virtu. I'm going to give you a letter recommendation AI tool. We're going to give you a tool that allows you to, you and your students, to match their priorities and their scholastic record with potential schools. We're going to talk about how we're using AI in our curriculum. And then we have a tool to actually make your life easier from Professor Frias. If you want to follow along, we've created a separate web page. So if you want to scan this or go to this website, you'll be able to download all the prompts that we've used and use them for yourselves as well. So that's the web page, kogod.info/AI Masterclass, or you can get it by this QR code, and we'll be sending it to you after. So I'm going to turn it over to Dean Casey Evans and Professor Angela Virtu, who have driven our work to infuse AI into the curriculum. And Professor Virtu is an AI expert. She came to Kogod after doing a bunch of AI work in startups and technology companies. So over to you, Professor Evans, or Casey, we'll be informal.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. We're excited to share about AI and how it can be useful to you, and a little bit on what we've done here at AU. Professor Virtue is going to frame up this next section, but I look forward to sharing more with you and later in the presentation.
Great. Thanks, Casey, and thanks, Dave. So before we jump into all of the examples of how we're leveraging AI for making our own lives easier and how it can maybe help you all as counselors, I want to just level set really quickly. So those of you who've gone to the webpage and looked at all the prompts and the tools that we're going to be using throughout this presentation, we're using a bunch of them. We're going to use Anthropic Claude, we're going to use Google Gemini, we're going to use ChatGPT, we're going to use Perplexity. And I don't want the different technologies to scare you, because at the crux and at the heart of what we're doing, it's all the same technique. In every single tool, we're going to be providing some kind of prompt, which is just a fancy way to say a set of instructions where we can leverage our own expertise and we can tell the AI system exactly what we want it to do on our behalf. Maybe it's do some research, maybe it's creating some letters of recommendation that Dave Marchick will show in a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's really the context and the information that we can provide to that AI system. So to give us a little bit of a warm up, I want us to start by using AI as a way to help us in our everyday life. And this is something that I personally use all the time, because maybe like some of you, the most frequent question that I hear in my household on repeat is, what's for dinner tonight? And if you ask me on like a Monday or a Sunday or a Tuesday, I might have a little bit of a plan. Maybe it's we're going to make barbecue chicken, or we're going to make some pasta, or whatever it might be. But as we get to later in the week, a lot of times my fridge will look like this, where it's a bunch of crusty leftovers that nobody wants to eat and some random things that are strewn about in the refrigerator. And so this is where I've actually been able to leverage AI to help me come up with some kind of recipe or some way to revive the leftovers that are in my refrigerator. And so for this example, I'm going to go into Claude. And like I said before, Anthropic Claude is really just one of those AI tools, but the process we're going to follow is we're going to give the AI system a set of instructions. And so in this case, I've preloaded in the big prompts that you can copy and paste over from that website. But what I want it to do is I'm going to attach that picture of my refrigerator that we just saw as part of that context window that the AI system can see. And then what I want the AI system to do is first analyze that picture of my fridge contents and do an inventory and figure out what's actually on hand. Additionally, I'm going to suggest, hey, we have a whole bunch of different staples. We have bread, we have flour in the pantry. And what I want the AI system to do is, based off of the ingredients that I have in my refrigerator right now, to come up with a few different recipes along with the cuisine type and how much time it's going to take me to actually make this individual recipe. And then down below, I've given it a few food blogs or websites where I might get some recipe inspiration from all the time. So I add all of the instructions, I add the context of the fridge picture, and I can click send. And as that cooks, I already have one pre-baked for us. And you can see that the first thing that it does is it'll tell me what it can find in my refrigerator, a bunch of leftovers, a bunch of condiments, some orange juice. And then it'll actually go in and start parsing through different recipes through the websites I've provided and create recipe suggestions based on what I already have. And as it comes through, it says, this is what you see in the fridge that you can already use. Here are some things that might be missing, and if it's going to be critical for that or not. And I'll list out 5 suggestions for me and my family to maybe consider. So like this one that takes an hour, probably not going to happen on a Friday night, but maybe we do this vegetable stir fry. And it'll list out the actual website that has the recipe contained through. And so this is one example of how I've been able to leverage AI to kind of help my everyday and alleviate some of the stress of figuring out what's for dinner every single night. So I'm going to pass it back over to Dean Dave, who's going to introduce how he can leverage this and help you all with your expertise in writing those letters of recommendation.
Well, Dave, you're muted.
I'm going to show you a tool that we created for letters of recommendation. I know that I get a lot of requests for letters of recommendation, and I know that you do too. I saw a data point that says that for large public schools, the average counselor has over 375 students that they need to support. That's a lot. So again, I'm going to use Perplexity. Angela used Claude. I think they're going to use Google next. All of these programs are great to figure out which one you like. We'd recommend you get the enterprise level tool because then the data that you upload is confidential and it's not used for training. So I'm using Perplexity Enterprise. Let me start with what not to do as someone that receives a lot of letters of recommendations for students that want to come to American University. So a generic letter of recommendation that uses AI will be read as if it's written by AI. So if I just went and said, write a 500-word recommendation for this student, she's a good student, and I've known her for a couple years, I click send, it's going to spit out a letter that reads like AI. I know if you talk to Evelyn or Jeremy, they'll say they know when a letter is written authentically and when it's just written by AI. So, not many people, I know I don't write that it's with great enthusiasm that I write this. Or you can see words like profound. You see a lot of typical AI words, and we would encourage you not to do that because they look like they're written by AI and they're not authentic or human. So what I've done is created a prompt which I will show you how I'm using. Again, you all are experts in what you do. You're better at it than I'll ever be. I'm just trying to give you some ideas for tools to make your life easier and more efficient, and also to shorten the amount of time you're using to write letters so that you can spend more time with students and more authentic time doing your job. So the prompt is, I'm going to be a high school counselor. I want you to write a letter of recommendation in my voice. So I will show you how I can train the AI to use my own voice. I put a few key things in the prompt. Avoid using phrases that are AI-like. So it's my privilege and honor. Just say, I write to recommend. Don't say it's my privilege or pleasure, because that tips it off, the reader off, that it's been written by AI. I'm going to link 15 letters of recommendation that I've actually written for students going on to grad school or somewhere else, so that the AI can train itself on my writing style and approach. A few other things. I can tell it not to write until it has enough detail and to ask me questions. I can also tell it only to use the information that I've given it. Don't pull information from the web or from other sources, from social media. I wanted to prioritize clarity, honesty, and not to inflate praise. A lot of AI tools are kind of sycophantic and they don't talk like normal humans. And then importantly, I said, provide it with no AI markings, footnotes, or sources so I can simply cut and paste in Word. That just makes it easier. A lot of AI tools give you dashes or stars and you have to delete them. So if you tell the AI, if you put that in the prompt, it won't do it. Okay, so then what I've done is I've created a perplexity space. All of the AI tools, Google, Claude, they give you the ability to create your own spaces. This is what I do a lot. I have a podcast. I have a speaker tab. These are things that I do repetitively, and I've created a space. And so here's a letter recommendation tool. Okay, so what I've done is I have dropped the prompt in there. So here's the prompt I just showed you. I have turned off the tab that says use the web. So if you turn this off, it will only train on the data that I give for it to train. So here it's not using the web. And then I've also added links to 25 letters of recommendation that I've actually written for other students. So these are students that I've supported over the last few years. And so the AI tool will actually have my tone and my language the way I write. Okay. Then I created through AI a college student information form. I'm sure you have your own. I looked at the College Board and I just created this. I'm sure yours is better, but I just wanted to use this to show you how you might be able to use it. You can give this to your student and then you can upload it. So I gave it to a fictional student who I think is one of the best students ever, Mick Jagger. Okay, I love him. My kids know that I love him. Where is he going to apply? He wants to go to AU because we have a wonderful music and also a business and entertainment program. King College London, NYU, they have a great music program. USC, they have a great music and business. He's a good student. He tells me his characteristics. He's certainly charismatic, hardworking, creative, ambitious. He gives a couple of examples, rhythm and blues bands, something sensitive. He says, one of my closest bandmates, Keith Richards, is brilliant, but he doesn't have the best reputation. I don't want his reputation to hurt me. So he puts that in there. And then, so what I would do is then upload his letter. So I've added his letter through this tool. And then I've given it a prompt, draft a recommendation letter for the student based on my tone and style. Please ask me questions to make it more personal. Hit send. Since this is going to take a few minutes, I'm just going to pretend that I sent it. So the AI comes back to me with a few questions. How long have you known him? When you think about him, what are his traits? Is there a particular classroom event or something that you love? Okay, so I say, I have known him. I'll just show you this. He's extraordinary. He's one of the most talented people I've seen. I always like, when I write letters of recommendation, I like to give these reader some context of where this person stands. Mick is one of the best. I can even say, I dance to his music and my kids think it's embarrassing. And I can flag that his friend Keith Richards doesn't have a great reputation. So then it'll come up with the letter, and I may not like it, so I'll give it a little more information, and then it comes up with the letter, which I can then copy and paste. And so there's the letter, and then I just copy and paste it into Word. I can put my letterhead on, and I always change the letters. It has to have a human touch. It can't be written by AI. Now, you all have hundreds of students that you support. So let's say that you're busy. I've created 5 or 6 different draft student forms, George Hamilton, Olivia Rivera, and I basically say, I'm going to upload all of them. And my prompt might be, give me a 400 to 500 word letter for these 5 students. I have to, okay, they want me to zoom in. I'm not sure how to do it. I have to run out, so I don't have time. You could upload 30 letters at a time, leave for the day, and then come back the next day. So here I'll say, run out. I'm going to see if I can make this bigger. Not sure how to do that. I can run out, let this run, and come back the next morning. So what it will do is I'll run it, it'll provide letters of recommendations for each student. They're not going to be as good as the Mick Jagger one because they don't have the back and forth, but it's a good start, and then it can create something that I can use and improve upon. So what I would do is add the letters. These are the letters. I'd connect them to the AI tool and then run the letters. They're going to be short, and then I'll need to work on them later. So again, this is a way to take your student information form, draft a letter in your own style, get a good draft, and then improve upon it. And that allows you to reduce kind of some of the redundancy and actually spend more time writing authentic letters for your students to support them getting into the school of their choice. So I'll stop there, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy.
Casey.
Casey, I'm sorry, I'm going to Casey.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Now we're going to move on to talk about how you could use AI to be helpful in figuring out where your student should apply to school. And similar to what Dave mentioned before, we know you're the subject matter experts in this space. This tool is not meant to replace anything you're doing and the role you're playing in your students' lives. We're just really hoping to help you create some efficiencies and get some of the time back in your very busy day. We know you're all very busy with significant number of deadlines and requirements and all kinds of like university nuances you need to know in order to help your students really start their college journey and really helping them when they're just on the front end of this process and figuring out where they should apply. And there's all kinds of parameters that you all are talking about with them, from the size of the university, the location, the culture, the rankings, the admissions rates, financial aid, type of campus, all to help them create their lists of their reach, target, or safety schools. And sometimes your students, they even need some help just getting started. It's all just too overwhelming. And you all do have some tools like College Finder and Rugs and Score to assist in this process. But some of the tools you have to pay for, and we know not all of you maybe have the budgets to do so. And so if your school doesn't provide you with a solid budget to pay for these resources, that can do a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about now. Know that we're going to use Google Gemini. It'll be free. It's budget friendly. Angela's going to show you how to use Google Gemini to basically kick off conversations with students about where they should apply to school. So think about this tool as being used maybe for your students, having them use it to help them prepare for an initial meeting with you on their college plans. Or just you could even use it during your meeting to really speed up the research process of the time spent in the meeting and moving it into more time for conversation. And so we hope it's helpful. I'm going to turn it over to Angela to show you how it works.
Great. Thanks, Casey. And as I get this set up, I really do want to reiterate what Casey just mentioned. So I'm going to talk through how we can leverage Google Gemini to help your students, maybe your juniors, try to start coming up with that initial list of colleges that they might want to apply to. And so I'm going to go through an example, but I really want you all to focus on your expertise and start changing the prompt a little bit here and there to reflect all of your expertise inside of this. And so what we can do is we can just do a normal prompt, just like we did with the Anthropic Claude example of what's for dinner, or even with what Dave just showed us with the Perplexity space he built. And I can copy and paste this nice prompt where I'm giving Google a persona saying, hey, you're a college counselor who's going to help students figure out which colleges they should consider applying to. And this, again, is where your expertise can come into play. And I'm saying if our students haven't done any thinking about college applications or what schools they might want to go to, our Google prompt will actually start asking the students some questions about maybe what their current high school GPA is, any test scores if they've taken the ACT or the SAT, along with having the students rank on a scale of 1 to 10 some particular school attributes. Where it could be, do they want accessible teachers or small classes or an urban or a rural feel, is, any other of those different particular attributes of schools. And what the AI system will do is it'll take all that information that the student has provided and recommend 15 schools that they should maybe consider applying for. And it's going to be a mixture of not likely, reach, target, likely for the students. And then the cool part is that we can then overlay all of the schools that the AI system is recommending that we recommend the students to apply to, and it'll actually pull all of those schools' common data sets to extract additional pertinent information about the existing application period, where we can now include things if our student's going to be penalized at a test optional school if they don't submit their scores, because 70% plus of all the enrolled students from this past academic year actually submitted test scores. Or things like demonstrated interest in a particular school being incredibly important in those enrolled populations as well. And at the very end, we'll have the AI system give an entire table that includes those 15 schools and gives a nice digestible overview of how these systems should work. Now, you could copy and paste this prompt 10 times or 20 times or 100 times for all of your students to kind of work through this process. But that can be a little tedious. So instead of just having it be a one-time conversation that we have in Google Gemini, we can go over here and create something called a gem. And a gem is just going to be this brand new space where it's going to have that prompt set as the instructions. So every time you want to have a brand new conversation, you don't have to copy and paste the same prompt over and over and over again. Now, I already have one pre-built, which is just curating a college list for students. And inside here, it has a little bit of instructions to either have your student upload that information sheet. So if you all already give all your juniors an information sheet that asks those particular questions of what they're looking for specifically in a school that they'd want to attend to or what's most important to them, they could just upload that list. If they haven't done any of that activities or work yet, you could just type the word begin. And Google will then go through that process of instructions where it'll start asking for the student's academic profile, any intended major areas of study, and then give the students those rankings from 1 to 10 on a whole bunch of different attributes of college life. I already have one kind of pre-built in where we have a student who's really interested in marine biology. And so they'll go through, they'll curate that list of schools. It'll indicate if they're kind of a reach, a target, likely or not likely based on the student's existing profile. And then it'll go down and again, pull from that common data set that has all the really, really recent important information that students should be aware of and include things about need-based financial aid, merit-based financial aid, any kind of demonstrated interest, or if test optional would actually hurt them or applicable. And so this would be a really cool starting point to have that conversation, get students in your door with maybe a little bit more meat and substance to kind of have your expertise layer in on top of that. And like I said, if you already have that worksheet, you can do this exact same process, but instead of just typing the word begin, you could go to add a file. I'm going to use the Mick Jagger example that Dean Dave used in his perplexity space. And instead of typing the word begin, you just add that worksheet that includes all of the information and things that a student in particular is looking for. And it will jump, instead of asking all of those questions, it'll jump right in to those recommendations. So for Mick Jagger, here's a whole bunch of music schools, what's likely, what's not, what's a target school. And again, it'll contain all of that need-based, merit-based information as well. So now I'm going to pass it over to Jeremy. He's our Assistant Vice President of Undergraduate Admissions, who you all know and love. And he'll go over how we at AU kind of use AI within the admission process.
Angela, thanks so much for the kind introduction, and I want to thank you all for taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule to join us today to learn more. One of the things that I want to talk about today is how admissions offices are starting to use AI to support their work. hold on just a second. I'm going to bring up my screen.
While he's doing that, we're getting a number of questions. We're going to come to those questions at the end, including about privacy. So
give me just a second. I troubleshooted this earlier. Let's see. All right, I think you're seeing what I want you to see, but I'm on the wrong slide. I knew I would do that. Okay, I can do this right. Sorry, guys. All right, we should be good. So what I want to talk about today is how admissions offices are starting to use AI to support their work. Much like we said to you, you all are the experts in the field, and AI isn't there to replace you. It's meant to be a supportive tool. I think that's how admissions offices are starting to implement AI as a tool that supports their work. As you know, our work is always increasing. There's always more demand and more need. And what we're finding is that there are helpful ways that AI can be a resource to our teams as they go through the process. I'll talk broadly about how admissions offices are starting to use AI, and then I'll speak more specifically about some ways that here within the AU admissions office we're using AI. I think one of the fastest growing uses is colleges and universities using AI to support credential review. So this would be the scanning of transcripts to help, say, with GPA recalculation of a myriad of types of GPAs, transcribing curriculum rigor, class rank, other factors that might flow into the review screen. That's the most common, and I think that currently is the only way that we're using artificial intelligence within the review process here at AU. I'll talk more about that in a second. There's also now AI agents that can support customer service automation. So say you call a school and you would like to book a campus visit. There may be an instance where an AI agent is answering that call and assisting you through that campus visit registration process if you're a prospective student or family looking to visit a school. I think we're all familiar with chatbots, but now I think there's a lot more sophistication around chatbots and how colleges and universities might incorporate an AI chatbot to be a more responsive partner in kind of curating some of these responses to questions that students will have through the process. Process and data management, I think, is another way where AI is starting to support the process, whether it's with the creation of data dashboards or data queries that admissions offices are using to help assess or analyze their applicant pool, or just generally serving as a CRM assistant. Some CRMs like Slate now have these embedded AI assistants that can help pull data more effectively, can help create a report or a dashboard more effectively, and you'll see offices moving in that way. So I talked a moment ago about how admissions offices are using AI to support credential evaluation. At AU, we've started partnering with an organization called Advisorly, which has a GPA or a transcript processor that helps us recalculate GPAs across all of our applicants who apply. It's not a perfect tool. It works for over 90% of transcripts that are processed. But what we've found is it's highly accurate. It helps remove some of that data entry, some of that manual data entry that really slows down our readers in the evaluation process. And it really enables our team to spend more time with the application itself versus this data entry piece. And it's been a big time saver for us in our first year of implementation. It's a tool we're still learning from, and we're still helping the tool learn how we do our work. But we've been really pleased with it so far. We're also AU isn't a Slate school. We use Salesforce, but Slate CRM also has some AI support within the review process where it can summarize essays or letters of recommendation within the review screen itself to be a supportive tool for admissions readers. The I think the thing that we're all learning is that I feel like on a monthly basis, I'll get an email about a new AI supported product and how that product is supporting key parts of a task, of a way of doing things. And one of the questions I think all admissions offices are going to ask in the years ahead is how will we incorporate AI to support our work? And how can we do so in a way that keeps our work honest, keeps our process true to who we are without overstepping the process too much, where it still is a human driven experience. Yeah, and that's the one of the things that I want to hone in on in our adoption of AI to help support transcript evaluation. AI is not making admissions decisions. It's not helping us make a judgment. For us at this point, it's a data entry processor to help alleviate some of the manual tasks that our team would otherwise be doing, and it's been excellent in that work. But our team and our readers are still the ones that are making recommendations on the decision. They're still reading the essays and rec letters, assessing extracurricular activities, and all those other aspects that go into our holistic consideration process. And that's something where I think is an appropriate adoption of AI. It's a supportive tool to help otherwise streamline a very intensive process and helps our team be more effective through the duration of, as you know, the reading season can be quite long. One of the things I wanted to spend just a quick moment talking about is I would suspect that in the coming years, more and more institutions will be adopting this type of transcript processor where an AI agent is processing a transcript, recalculating a GPA, pulling out rigor, and so forth. And one of the things that I think will be helpful, at least as high schools understand how colleges are using AI, to look at how their transcripts are structured to see if this is an AI-enabled transcript that'll make it easier to be processed if a school is using that. Most are. As I mentioned in our early adoption, over 90% of transcripts are processed accurately and effectively and without issue. Where our team notices an issue, we can go in and kind of help retrain the AI tool to learn from that type of school type or how that school reports things. But just some key tips that most of you are already doing within your transcripts. Clear and predictable formatting, the way you line up your semesters, makes it easy to process. And then consistency and naming conventions for courses, rigor assessments and so forth, I think really make the AI more effective in processing a transcript coming from a particular high school. There's a lot to unpack here. As I mentioned, I think more and more schools will be adopting AI support tools in the coming years. And your understanding of how these tools are being supported through the college application review process, I think will better understand the relationship of AI and admissions related work. We're excited to keep the dialogue going with you as these questions arise. I think all of us here at AU, especially in the Office of Admissions, are here to be a resource for you. Now, I'm excited to turn it over to Dr. Kelli Frias, who's a professor in the marketing department. And Kelli has been an on-campus leader in helping to adopt AI within our curriculum. Kelli, take it away.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And I want to say just from the onset, I'm sorry, but I'm going to give you a couple of my favorite tools, and they're different than the tools that we've talked about. But I do want to say before I show you my slides that I have put together a kind of a step-by-step worksheet, so you don't have to kind of follow what I'm doing. You'll have everything after the fact. But let me share my slides and then talk a little bit about what I do personally to make my life easier. So like you, I have hundreds of students each semester that are taking different courses. Hopefully we can pull this up. And I often get a lot of the same kinds of repetitive questions. And so I took a step back before I started thinking about whether and how I could integrate AI into my workflow, and really thought about the tasks that I do all the time. And what I mean by that is it could be everyday tasks or tasks that you do every week. But I'm sure like you, I get the same kinds of student questions over and over and over. And I know they're well-meaning, but it gets tough at the end of the day when you've answered those questions. So let me show you the tools that I use. And I'll tell you a little bit about why I chose each one. So I have lots and lots of meetings, and taking notes while I'm talking obviously is super difficult. Even if I was attempting to take notes during this meeting that we're having today, I'd probably do a pretty poor job of it. So I use a tool called Granola, and there's a free tier to this, so there's no charge. But what this tool allows you to do is it allows you to take notes while it's also taking notes. So unlike Zoom or other kinds of platforms, it's taking notes based on text. So there's no video recording or audio recording, it's just text. And I can use that information later. So I can pull those notes up and I can chat with those notes. So for example, if a student were to come in and say, I'm really thinking about working with this company. Do you know anything about that company? And later in the evening, I can't remember what that company is. I can go back and chat with my own notes and it'll tell me the name of that company. So Granola is one that I highly recommend for your own admin meeting notes or with students. Is there privacy concerns? Absolutely. So each and every time I use this, I tell everyone in the room, including my students. I do use this in class as well. So we record all of my lecture notes and all of the interactions with students. So it's good enough to just put my platform out there on my desk and there's my laptop and it records everything. They know this, and I'm very explicit about this, and I remind this each and every time we talk. Once I have all of these notes, so let's say I have 50 meetings for the week, I store all of those in a database platform, which is called Notion. Notion's been around for probably 10 or so years, but now with AI embedded, it's a really easy platform for going back and calling up all those notes. So it will automate that organization process, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like in a second. And the third tool that I use, and again, this is free, Notion has a free education account, which I use, is Zapier. So Zapier is kind of like your connector tool. So I think someone in the chat said, is there a way to automate some of these processes? Zapier is a tool that can easily automate between web platforms, and it's something that I use. I get zaps every day, basically. And let me show you just one example that works for me, but I'm sure there's lots of examples that would work for you as well. So I get this one a lot. I'm sorry I missed class today. Did I miss anything important? And I know they're well-meaning, but when I get that, did I miss anything important? It's kind of rough to hear. So I say yes, every time we meet, it's important. But what I've been able to do with these tools is I've been able to automate that response. So in this Zapier process, so it's embedded within Zapier, it connects my notes from Notion, which have been placed in that database by Granola, so that's automated. And once the student sends me an email, and that email says, let's say something like November 24th advertising, they'll send me something with that subject line. And because I have this set up through Zapier, they will automatically get the class notes for that day. And that's been super valuable, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, our class discussions are always different than we might have projected. And two, if there's something we need students to follow up on, I can send them that, and then we can have that dialogue one-on-one. So connecting these three tools together, again, I'm not a coder. I don't code anything. I'm not even typing. Oftentimes it's me just talking. So I just turn on the talk feature and I talk to it and I say, this is the problem that I'm having with my students. Can we come up with something that would automate the process? And these are the three tools that I use to make that happen. So here's my database. This is just a picture of what I use in Notion, and you can see each of my notes based upon my class. So I teach different classes. I teach brand strategy and advertising, and then I also have one-on-one meetings with students about particular projects. All of those notes are embedded here, and anytime a student calls up those notes, all they have to do is put the title in that subject line email, and it automatically sends them the notes. They know how to use the process, so I give them that at the beginning of the semester, and they know how to get those automated notes. So that's been very helpful. Just to give you, just as a reminder, you can grab these kind of step-by-step instructions on the webpage. But I wanted to give you just a couple of other what I call fun stuff that I use with these notes once you have them in place. So Granola is really great also at giving you feedback. So they have a feature called recipes, and one of those recipes is coaching. So at the end of the week, I'll often ask it to coach me on what I could have done better in the week, how I could have been more efficient, and it will spit out, this is what you should have been doing this week. This is where you probably weren't spending the best amount of time or you were wasting time. It'll even tell you when you might be low energy and you shouldn't schedule some of your most important meetings. So that's been very helpful. It'll also tell me, I sometimes ask, like, what should I have delegated this week? And it'll go through and read all of my notes and identify maybe something that I could have passed on to my research assistant or that I could have waited for another week. So that's another place that I use it. And then the third place, and I imagine this might be really helpful for you, is if we think about all those meetings you have with your students for the week, we usually have a common set of questions that the students would ask. You can put those questions. So ask Granola, what were the common questions I got this week? And ask it to put it in a database. So it can put all of those questions in that database in Notion and send those to students, right? So all of those things will evolve, and that's the nice part about this is once it's automated, it becomes dynamic. So I don't have to keep going in and updating the database. It will automatically populate that over and over and over, and it gives me a nice way to give students real-time information without having to respond to hundreds of emails on a weekly basis. So I hope this has been super helpful for you. I did see some other kinds of questions in the chat about the best tools. And so Evelyn's going to go to Q&A, and I think we'll talk more about what our best tools are here in a moment.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. What a great presentation you all put together. And I see we still have a captured audience. So firstly, let me remind you that we will be sending all of our registered guests and attendees the recording for this session. We'll also make it available to other college counselors who were not able to register. And so look out for that. And you can also share that with friends and family alike. So I will start by asking some of our great panelists some of the questions that you all have shared. As you can see, we are trying very hard to answer the questions in real time, but there's some that I think are pertinent to everyone. So one, and this is for you, Dean Dave, is the question was, I'm used to being very formal in my writing. I use language like I'm pleased to recommend in my style. Should I not do that anymore? I think you had some ideas there.
Great, thanks. Great question. My advice is to use whatever style is authentically you. The key is to train the AI to write like you, and you can do that by creating one of these spaces or the groups that Angela showed using Google. Each of the tools has them. If you just create a folder, drop 10 or 15 or 20 examples of your recommendation letters in there, point the AI tool to that folder, turn off the web feature so it's only training on your letters, it will write like you. And the key is have it do a draft, but then finalize it. It has to have a human touch. It has to be human written, but you can get a decent draft using AI.
All right. So second question really quickly, where do we go to get the prompts? How do we download them? If you can maybe give them a quick tutorial there.
Sure. Okay. So our team, Katya Popova, who's our marketing guru, created a website, kogod.american.edu/AI Masterclass for counselors. We'll send you this. And then at the beginning of the session, we'll send you the recording. There is a QR code. All the prompts are here. So what's for dinner? There's the prompt. Here's the letter recommendation prompt. Where should my student apply? And make life easy. So everything will be there. We also received some requests to have the PowerPoint. We'll put the PowerPoint up there on this website as well, and we'll send you the web link so you have it. We also received a couple of questions about, I'm actually not that comfortable with AI. How do I get smart? So I would just say experiment. And we also did this a master class for alumni and for the community. It's if you go to YouTube and search Kogod, there's a Kogod web page or YouTube page. And if you scroll down, this masterclass right here
My energy
is
bill
really,
dropped.
oh, that's an advertisement. It's a great set of tools from really basic stuff to very complicated stuff like what Kelli did. We give 10 lessons, and you can do as many or as few as you like.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so the next question is for our professors Angela and Kelli. And the question is, what are the concerns about student privacy and sharing personal information that could be going into the AI universe?
So I can start, and Kelly, obviously, you can jump in where you need. So this is a great question, and I get this every single time I do any kind of AI presentation. It's not just the students' information and perspective, but all of ours. So there's kind of two pieces of advice that I'll give. The first one is when working with AI with students, it's really, really important that you disclose that you're using it and give students an option to opt out if they don't want to use the AI version of these tools. We're really big on AI disclosure at AU, not just from the student perspective, but also from the professor perspective. So if I, use AI to make my slides, I'll tell my students, hey, I did this thing. What do we think? And have a little conversation about it. The second thing is just assume any free tool is going to be using any information that you supply in your prompts or that you upload through your documentation as being a retraining element that will become a part of the larger ether, right? The larger AI corpus that could be used or thrown out there in the universe. So whenever using free tools, this is where I would try to anonymize, maybe replace a student's name with like student one or student two. Try to take out any PII, any personally identifying information out of the contents that you're going to upload. Kelli, happy to jump over to you, see if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also some maybe more complex options where you can run some of these things on your personal computer, so they're not hitting the cloud at all. You're just using the kind of the functioning. But other places where I also tell students to be wary is anytime we're using someone else's data, your professors, whether administrators, others, this is their intellectual property. We always require they get permission. So even if they can use my slides in my class and embed them in some sort of AI tool, they're not allowed to do that without asking the other professors. Of course, that's what we would hope for. But I think just being cognizant of the way and talking to students about the way that AI is being embedded in all of our activities, whether it's in the classroom or outside, is something that we try to do regularly because it is, as you said, Angela, it's becoming ubiquitous and that it's everywhere. So
thank you for that. Let's see other questions here. Let me see. There's a question here about ethics, and I wonder whether either Casey, you or Dave can talk a little bit about how we're building the curriculum for students so that even before they start using AI at AU, we're talking about the ethical parts of it. So let me see if I hope I didn't miss that question. Or did somebody already respond? Did you already respond to it?
Oh, I'll go ahead and just answer it for the group.
Okay,
What
perfect.
we're doing at AU, while we are very, as you all have learned, moving quickly and forward in terms of how we've infused AI into our curriculum, we are also being thoughtful about that. And so in the first year, we are first teaching our students about which tools to use, yes, but also the pitfalls of AI, where it's not going to work for them, places to use it that work well and other places to not work well. We're showing, similar to what Dave did in his portion of the letter of recommendation presentation, where it was, here's a bad prompt and this is what it'll get you, and that's about a C-. And so this is when you talk through with them about how they infuse the things that they've learned in class to better enhance any deliverable that they have for us. But then just really, again, like talking about the ethics of it, how to be critical of it. is our first conversation, and we spend about a semester on that with them before we really have them dive into the tools. And then after they are skeptical of it, we feel like they're much better prepared to dive into our different verticals. For us, it's accounting, it's finance, it's marketing, it's management, and using those tools in a better way to enhance their learning. And then that strategy continues into their junior and senior year as they get into their major.
Okay, thank you. Dave, did you want to add anything, or are we good with that?
Casey answered it better than I could, so thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so a question about creating school profiles, and I'll take a stab at it and see if Jeremy has anything to offer, but also we'll point to Katya because she's been helping us think about how we organize our website so that we are being AI optimized for AI. So the question is, are schools using AI to create their school profiles? If so, is there a program or prompt that would be best for that? Quite honestly, Megan, I can't answer whether or not schools are using AI to create profiles. My assumption is that in very short order, every organization, schools, institutions should be thinking about how to optimize not just their school profiles, any part of their website to allow AI to pull some of this information and feed to families, to feed to just open AI in general. I know that we are thinking about how we do some of this work for our website. Katya has been helping us think about this kind of zero click world that we are getting into, and what that means from a prospective student landscape. So I don't know about whether schools are actually using it, and I don't know if there's a program, but I'm pretty sure that there are many institutions that are optimizing all of their functions through AI. Jeremy, I don't know if you had any thoughts, or Katya, if you'd like to kind of jump in there.
Yeah, no, nothing to add, Evelyn. Again, to your point, I'm unsure if schools are using this to support their college or their school profile. I presume some are, but to what extent, and are there tools that effectively support that service? I don't know at this time.
Right. Katya?
Happy to note that we at the Kogod School of Business have been doing that for a little while now. There are some tools that are free and available out there, and I'm happy to include them in our follow-up communication with you all that teach you how to write better and how to structure your website better for it to be better read by an AI. Like Evelyn mentioned, most clicks in Google now end up in zero clicks. So most searches, more than 70% of searches on Google end up in zero clicks. So it is our job now to market to AI chatbots. And that does require 3 to 4 different specific things that you need to think about. But I'm happy to share that resource in our follow-up communication if that's of interest to you.
Thank you, Katya. Last question as we come to the top of the hour here. Do you see universities changing the way they assess students now that AI will be taking on more of a memory recall role in our lives? Any examples from AU? I think Jeremy talked a little bit about this. So Jeremy, do you want to kind of capture what we're doing here again very succinctly, and then answer the rest of that question?
Yeah, that's such an excellent question because I think what I've noticed with our team is that in the early adoption of this transcript tool, it's enabled the team to have more time to spend with the application itself. There's less of that data entry, recalcing a GPA manually, as you know, is time consuming. If you remove that function altogether, I think it's actually improved the quality of our review and how we consider students. And it's also allowed us to standardize some of our processes in a way that we weren't doing before. I do want to note that in our adoption of this tool, I would consider myself an eager skeptic. I'm eager to adopt change, but I also want to make sure that it's honest and true to what we think. And when we first adopted this tool, our team was manually recalculating GPAs to validate the accuracy from what we would otherwise be doing with what the AI assisted tool was doing. And the accuracy was unparalleled. It was highly accurate for the vast majority of the more than 5,000 transcripts that our team manually looked at. We were very thorough in our adoption of this and have been very pleased with how it's enabling us to be more efficient with our reviews, but also devote more time to the unique qualities of an applicant, their unique achievements, versus just spending a good deal of time kind of doing data entry.
Wonderful. So we are at time, and I just want to take a moment first to thank you, Dean Dave, for your leadership in this area, for your brilliance in thinking about offering this to college counselors. From just some of the chat, I can see already that some of the folks who joined us are eager to kind of jump in there and use some of the tools that you've already recommended. And thank you also to our faculty, Kelli, Angela, Casey, for your brilliant work on this and for your forward thinking for our students, and of course, Katia for being our extraordinary planner for this event. Jeremy, thank you for the partnership. Folks, I hope you have a great holiday season, and please be in touch. We will definitely send you the recording. And in the recording, we'll also include the QR code that will send you to the website, etc. But thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you.